Welcome back to AM Sports Cover 4. And we have some news in regards to the FSU versus the ACC lawsuit. Now, many of you may know this, but FSU and the ACC filed lawsuits against each other. The ACC filed their lawsuit in North Carolina, the county of Mecklenburg. And of course, FSU filed their lawsuit in the state of Florida. Both entities are trying to jockey for position in terms of venue because that is going to be a critical advantage in this particular lawsuit. Now, of course, FSU alleged gross negligence or dereliction of duty, whatever term you want to use in regards to the ACC, because they did not keep pace with some of the TV deals that we are seeing out there currently, specifically with the SEC and the Big Ten. FSU also made some explosive allegations in regards to the ACC and its former head, John Swarford. Now, the ACC has responded, and they responded with basically language that would suggest that that the proper venue in this particular lawsuit should be in the state of North Carolina. I don't know if I agree with that, considering the fact that Florida or Florida State is technically a part of the state of Florida, and they do all of their business in Florida, or at least the vast majority of their business in Florida. So I would believe that the venue should be in Florida. But of course, as many of you know, I am a Florida State graduate. I am a homer. I am a booster. I'm a part of the battle's end. So I'm going to look favorably in regards to FSU. Now, recently, I think this was actually yesterday, ESPN has jumped into the fray. Now, this is interesting. They filed a memorandum of law in support of the plaintiff's amended motion to seal. Now, this was in Mecklenburg. As I mentioned before, this is a county within North Carolina. And essentially what ESPN is arguing is that the contracts that ESPN has with the ACC contain trade secrets that, if revealed to the general public, would put them at a disadvantage against other rival networks like Fox, who are vying for college football content as well. And although I am 100% a Florida State homer, and let me preface my statement by saying this, I am not a lawyer. I actually work in finance, not a lawyer at all. Most of these legalese, I don't even care to read. And don't even try to care. I don't even care to try to understand it. However, when you think about business, I would imagine that any company would be at a disadvantage. And I'm just thinking about my particular company that I currently work for. If our competitors knew our overall cost structure, or they knew, agreements between our company and our suppliers, then that would, in my opinion, erode our negotiating power. It would erode our ability to charge a specific price to our customers who, eventually sells it to, the end consumer. So I would imagine that ESPN and the ACC actually has some type of argument here. And I think that's probably a valid argument. Now, what will a judge say? I have absolutely no idea. Personally, just based off of everything that I've seen, I personally believe that FSU's case is still stronger than the ACC's case. I don't believe just because the ACC preemptively filed a lawsuit in North Carolina that means that is the proper venue for this particular case. You're trying to sue the state of Florida in another state. That makes absolutely no sense to me. Now, again, I'm not a lawyer, but it makes no sense to me. I know there's been a lot of speculation out there in terms of whether or not Florida State will end up eventually. And I still believe Florida State is getting out of the ACC. I think that caveat that the ACC filed in their response to FSU's lawsuit in Leon County, personally, I think that's evident that they are willing to negotiate. I think how far they're willing to negotiate and what price is ultimately settled on will depend on how the case is going, right? And I think the next critical milestone in this particular lawsuit is going to be venue, right? And I believe Mecklenburg, I believe they're going to court, and I believe it's March 15th. I believe is when a decision would be made whether or not the court in Mecklenburg will actually hear the case. And I got to do a little bit more research on the Leon County lawsuit. I don't recall the date on that, but I think the next critical dates will be in March, and that will decide whether or not either court is going to hear it. If Mecklenburg or North Carolina decides that they are going to stay and allow it to be heard in Florida, my understanding stay means that they're not necessarily dismissing the lawsuit, but they will stay, meaning that it will be active, but it will be tried in another state, and any particulars relative to the case that are not resolved as a part of that particular lawsuit then could be brought back to that state, is my understanding. So I think both entities, both FSU and ACC, file either a motion to dismiss or a motion to stay. I think once we get through that part and we find out where the venue is going to be, I think then you'll know who has the upper hand and who's gonna be paying, the majority of the dollars associated here. Well, FSU will be paying the dollars, but what I mean by that is who is going to have to give at the negotiation table. And if it ends up in Leon County, I suspect you'll see this get settled much quicker than people originally thought, and you'll see FSU probably walk out of there with a price tag. I would guess. I was listening to Jeff Cameron, the Jeff Cameron show. That's a great show. I loved him. I think based off of what he's heard, I think he may have said something between 200 and 300 million. I'm thinking that's probably a good price, good starting point. I'm thinking it's going to be somewhere in that area. And if it's in Mecklenburg, then it's definitely going to be a challenge for FSU. FSU, the 500 million is untenable. I don't think that's going to happen, but it's probably going to be on the higher end. So we'll see what ends up happening. If both counties decide that they want to try the case or they want to hear the case, then I would guess this would end up getting elevated to maybe like a federal case or a federal court for it to be settled there. So interesting stuff is moving forward. I wouldn't get caught up or hung up on any of these particulars. One last thing, ESPN did use language that FSU is bordering on committing a felony by revealing any trade secrets or any details associated with the contract in their lawsuit. If I understood correctly, the information that FSU did provide in their lawsuit was public information. And the only other thing that I don't understand, though, is this. And this is, I guess, counter to what I said earlier, but it seems like the payouts to the conferences is pretty much well known. Like, that's a well-known fact. So I don't know what other details would be in their agreements that would prevent them from, or which would call it a trade secret, when most of that information seems to be already out there. So it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening in regards to FSU and the ACC. You guys tell me what you think in the comment section in regards to this. Don't forget to hate, like, comment, and subscribe. This is AM Sports Cover 4, and I am